Lord of the Rings, a series close to the hearts of millions. Some of the greatest books ever written, one of the most successful film franchises of all time, a slightly less successful spin-off franchise, and some of the most iconic characters ever created, including Gandalf, Aragorn, Frodo, Gimli, and yes, even Gollum. It's that last character who, while a major player in the films and books, ended up having one of the worst video games of all time attributed to his name. Let's get one thing out of the way first. Even if this game was a masterpiece in terms of how it was made, it's still based on possibly the weakest character in the entire Lord of the Rings franchise that you could choose as a protagonist, that being the 4-foot-tall corrupted hobbit who has taken on all the character traits of a meth addict. Now, for the technical flaws of the game, and let's start with the elephant-sized eyeballs in the room. I mean, the graphics. What in the actual hell is this? If this released for the PS2 back in the day, it would look bad, and this doesn't just look bad, it looks downright terrifying. It literally looks like my guy has had a lobotomy, or his addiction has sucked away the last remnants of his soul and there's nothing left behind those giant, terrifying saucers of eyes. You know what? I'm not even going to go into too much detail here. The gameplay videos will speak for themselves. The graphics looked like launch titles for the Xbox 360 or PS3 at best. The game was janky as all hell and littered with bugs. The gameplay itself was just, well, boring, as you might imagine from taking a somewhat minor character from a beloved series and making him the protagonist that nobody wanted or asked for. The main gameplay loop involving just sneaking around areas, avoiding getting caught by the guards, and, well, that's pretty much it. So, how did we get to a point where one of the most successful fantasy series in history ended up with its name attached to such an unmitigated disaster of a video game? To answer that question, we have to go back to a simpler time. A time when the internet wasn't a cesspit of misinformation and your granny wasn't trying to tell you how Bill Gates was going to mind control you. Or, well, 2019. Daedalic Entertainment announced the game was scheduled for release for September 2021. However, this shepherded in one of the most chaotic sequence of events in any game's development ever. Disclaimer: there are a number of German and some French names as part of this synopsis. I speak neither of these languages and will not be held responsible for my butchering of their beautiful languages. With that, on with the video. The very first problems even predate the announcement of Gollum, with German publisher Bastei Löbe considering selling its 51% stake in Daedalic Entertainment as early as August 2018 due to their financial issues. Following this, creative director Andreas Suike left Daedalic in August 2019 to join Epic Games, leading to their Dusseldorf studios becoming inactive. Not a great start. From here, everything seemed to go quiet until a teaser trailer was dropped in August 2020, and to be fair, nothing really seemed amiss at this point, aside from people just a bit curious as to choosing a character who fans would want their own spin-off for just about as much as fans want one for Jane Foster in the MCU. The first red flags didn't appear until January 2021, where the French publisher Nacon announced they were joining forces with Daedalic to publish Lord of the Rings Gollum, and immediately they pushed the release date out to 2022. Now, with the topsy-turvy nature of the previous 18 months since the announcement taken into consideration, it's not like there was something world-changing going on during that time or anything, and the original release date only being 3 and a bit months shy of 2022, this wasn't an immediate massive concern, and a sneak peek trailer soon followed in March 2021. Again, nothing major was noted from this trailer. It looked like a decent platformer meets stealth game, and the graphical flaws weren't completely apparent, although there was a distinct lack of any shots of Gollum's face as part of this sneak peek. I wonder why. However, also in early 2021, further signs of problems with Daedalic as a company began to become clear, with both Dusseldorf and Munich studios entering liquidation in 2021, although the Dusseldorf studios had been inactive since Andreas Suike had left in 2019, and the Munich studios had been emptied out in late 2020 and employees left to seek employment elsewhere. Later in the year, in July 2021, the first gameplay trailer was released. This took the form of an interview with producer Harald Reigler, voicing over some images from the game and footage that looked basically the same as what had been shown a few months previously in the teaser trailer. Again, there was a distinct lack of any of Gollum's face, and the graphics they did show, well, let's just say they didn't look fantastic. But hey, it was pre-alpha, nothing to worry about, right? I mean, in hindsight it's pretty obvious why Harold focused on talking about the story without actually giving any real story details, and dropping in that fan favourite Gandalf would make an appearance, as well as Legolas's dad in all their respective glory. From here, at least to the public eye, it was full steam ahead for Gollum for the next several months, with a cinematic trailer dropping at the end of the year. And well, this is where the first seeds of the horrifying Gollum that Daedalic was going to unleash on the world took root, with YouTube comments on the trailer drawing attention to the woeful character model and the subpar voice acting. It was beginning to become clear that not all was well with this game. But, before you knew it, 2022 was upon us, the year of Gollum, or so it was supposed to be. Initially in February 2022, it was announced that Nacon had acquired Daedalic for an estimated $60 million. This was then confirmed in April 2022. In May 2022, it was announced on the game's Twitter page that September the 1st was going to be the release date for PC and console, while the Nintendo Switch would see its release on the 30th of November that year. Whatever hype train existed for the game was now at top speed. Months out from release, everything seemed to be coming together. And then the gameplay trailer dropped on the 7th of July. Well, to say this was a disaster would be an understatement. It was pretty clear from this that the game had major problems. Mediocre graphics, subpar voice acting, reuse of multiple shots from previous trailers, and, well, very dull looking gameplay where the entire game just seemed to be running around and climbing, with very little in the way of stealth mechanics being shown off, especially for a game that had marketed itself as a quote-unquote stealth game. The game in general looked unpolished and just seemed off from the trailer. Something was essentially confirmed by the developers less than a month later, when on 25th of July they announced a further delay of a few months. All went quiet again until the 9th of March 2023 when a final trailer dropped, a cinematic trailer, which, well, it didn't exactly inspire anyone, but hey, we got an actual release date this time for May 2023, and with that, the world was finally ready to receive the game that absolutely nobody had asked for. Fast forward 3 months and it's the day before the release. Full gameplay footage gets released onto YouTube and it does not look good. The videos are pulled hours later, but the damage is done. People's fears from the trailers are confirmed. Not only was this a game about a character no one wanted to play as, it was a god-awful game about a character no one wanted to play as. The game launched, and then the reviews started to come in. Daedalic and Nacon waited with bated breath, and well, it tanked hard. The game was universally panned by critics and players alike, and within a matter of hours it was being touted as the worst game of 2023. A title which it held on to despite some seriously stiff competition coming its way. Despite all the flack, more people purchased the game than you might think, with the game reaching the top 10 of games sold in the UK in its launch week and taking in $400,000 in sales. But for a game whose budget was €15 million... Wait, hang on a second. How much? Okay, so it was an unmitigated financial disaster, critical disaster, and everybody hated it. Now, how did the developers Daedalic Entertainment respond to this failure of catastrophic proportions? Possibly a refund for the dishevelled gamers who spent their hard-earned money on this stinking pile of junk? A genuine admission of we messed up, we hold our hands up and we're going to fix this? Even a genuine corporate apology, if there is such a thing? Nope. Enter ChatGPT, allegedly. They just provided a possibly AI-generated apology littered with spelling mistakes where they couldn't even get the name of their own game spelled correctly. As part of this, they did say they were addressing bugs and technical issues, but the damage had long been done. This improvement, they promised, took the form of a major bug fix patch that dropped on PC in July 2023, where it can only be taken as a see you later at the end of the patch notes. Following the disastrous launch, it was announced in June 2023 that 25 of Daedalic's employees were to be laid off and it was shutting down its development division, moving to a publisher-only model. It would later be alleged by people who worked on Gollum that Daedalic and Nacon had some terrible working conditions imposed on devs, including unpaid overtime, staff paid below minimum wage, and a toxic work environment. Now this all may be very normal to US viewers, but over here in Europe all that stuff is a major no-no. And this, along with the shoestring budget for a AAA game and all the turmoil throughout its development, kind of explains why we got such an unpolished mess. That said, Gollum was probably doomed from the start, regardless. It had taken a character who nobody wanted to play as, placed it into a relatively niche genre, and then from there made a bad game to top it all off. As I said at the start, even if the game had been a technical masterpiece, who the hell wants to play as Gollum? You're in a universe with some of the most iconic characters in all of fantasy. No one wants to play as the little meth addict with a personality disorder running around the place. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.